This isn't just against Poland and Estonia, but all NATO allies potentially could be involved.
Yes, absolutely, and that's where the Article 5-like provisions come into play, Wolf. So when you look at the Polish example with those 19 drones, as Katie Bowe was just talking about, I would put the odds actually at more 70-30 or 60-40 that the Russians did this intentionally. Now, it is absolutely possible that there was jamming involved, and the way to determine that is whether or not Ukrainian jamming efforts were underway at that particular moment in time, or even Polish jamming efforts. So if there was nothing like that going on at that time, then you can pretty much determine that this was an intentional effort. When it comes to the Estonian situation with 3 fighter jets, that is an obvious offensive play by the Russians. What they're doing is they're testing the air defenses of the Estonians. They're looking at the way in which the Estonians would respond to an incursion, and the fact that they stayed in Estonian airspace for 12 minutes. That's a very long time, relatively speaking. Small country, doesn't take long to fly from one end to the other in a fighter jet. They would be doing this intentionally to determine what the Estonians have and how they would deploy it.
Is there a point at which you think NATO allies should respond more forcefully to these kinds of Russian incursions?
Well, it depends on what exactly the Russian incursions are doing. If the Russian incursions involve just intelligence gathering assets, that's one thing. But in this particular case, at least with the Estonian situation, where you have fighter jets involved, that's an obvious offensive weapon. Some of the drones that were used in Poland also have offensive capabilities. So when you look at how those drones were employed, did they have a type of warhead in their platform? Did they have only electronic gear in their platform? That would then determine what kind of response NATO should have. But generally speaking, NATO should be prepared to shoot these drones down if necessary. Fighter jets, different story because you're talking about a manned aircraft. That involves something completely different. The best thing to do in that case, at the moment at least, would be to intercept those jets and force them back into Russian airspace.
Good point. On another very sensitive military-related issue, you heard yesterday President Trump say the Trump administration is now working to regain control of the huge Bagram air base in Afghanistan, which the U.S. withdrew from at the end of the Biden administration. What would that look like for the U.S. to attempt to take that air base, it's a huge air base, back?
Yeah, that is a huge airbase, Wolf, and of course that was the node for a lot of our operations during the time of our presence in Afghanistan. It would be very interesting because now Bagram Air Base, if we took it over again, would be in the middle of Taliban territory. So there would have to be a lot of arrangements with the Taliban. In essence, we would become de facto, if not de jure, allies with the Taliban, at least for the purposes of protecting that airbase. So it would be a very interesting development. The president mentioned yesterday that this was